everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. I'm being slightly quiet. As always, I record these the last minute. It's almost midnight. Naomi's asleep in the other room. Try not to wake her. How are you all doing this week? Speaking of Naomi, we spent most of our couples therapy session on Tuesday decrying the state of our industry. The WGA is starting negotiations this week, and I don't know how secret the emails they send us are. My guess is not at all, but just in case, I won't say too much. But it feels, what's the word? Apocalyptic. Maybe that's going too far. All right, it feels somewhere in between not great and apocalyptic. I know, it's a real gamut there, a wide spectrum, but sometimes you're just feeling not great, not happy, but just not great in 2026. I don't know. Hey, maybe it's the fact that I spend every day listening to academic interviews with Iran experts. I don't know, is that doing something to my mood? I don't know. But you know what always helps improve that mood? Why? Yes, it's talking to my guests on Beginnings, and today is no different because today I am talking to Connor Armbruster. And if you don't know who Connor is, I'm going to read you his bio right now. Originally from Bethlehem, New York, musician Connor Armbruster has been playing fiddle since he was young. While he's written and recorded music for over half a decade, his first professional album as Armbruster was 2022's Masses, which was released on Dear Life Records. This was followed up by the brilliant Can I Sit Here 2 years later, and a number of wonderful EPs and live recordings in the years since. His latest, Half My House, just came out at the end of February, and folks, it's great. I guess I've been speaking to a lot of experimental musicians lately. Juliana Barwick, Mary Lattimore, Claire Rousey, and now Connor. This is great. I won't spend too much time previewing it. Like the way trailers have the first 5 seconds as an introduction to the trailer. I won't do that. But just wanted to say, I dig Connor's energy. I dig his artistic ethos, and I dig his music. And I had an absolute blast talking to him, so I hope you enjoy this episode. Coming up on the show, I got talks with John McIntyre, brilliant producer, member of Tortoise, Gaster del Sol, and so many other bands. John Flansburgh of They Might Be Giants, that's coming up. And I'm very excited for next week's episode with the directing duo known as Fatal Farm. If you were around in the early internet days in the aughts, like when comedy videos were really becoming a thing, there were a couple of people who were doing incredible work. I think Nick Weiger was doing some of the best sketch comedy for Funny or Die. Wonderful director Jason Woliner, and Zachary and Jeffrey, or Zach and Jeffrey from Fatal Farm. One of their series that they did was Lasagna Cat, which were these very surreal live recreations of Garfield strips. And we had an incredibly surprising talk. I did not expect their childhood to be what it was. So that's coming out next week. So stay tuned for those, but for now, let's talk to Connor.
In the kitchen, I'm just feet away from a sink full of dishes, which is good.
Is that okay? Is that a standard occurrence? There's a sink full of dishes?
Oh my gosh, man! Yeah, it is. I have a 6-year-old, and she's been on winter break this week, so it's just me and her hanging out, and we've had a week. We hit 3 museums in 2 days.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
Okay.
So
good father.
But long story short, dishes have been piling up.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Because I was saying that as a way to wedge into a discussion of art in some way.
Oh, yes, I see. Yeah.
Without there being any kind of agenda, because I wasn't sure where I was going with it. But I was just like, does your artistic life take up the volume in the room? But also parenthood, I assume, is going to, especially parenthood, if you're taking your child to many museums, not just one, but many museums over a week, I assume that is also predominant in your life and in your brain and in your heart.
Yeah, all three of those: brain, life, and heart. Yeah, no, I think my brain often feels like a sink full of dishes. That's for sure. I mean, I think yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and it's both good and bad because it makes it hard to focus. But it's good in that I think it kind of reminds me of having I'm sort of always thinking about the next thing, and it can become frustrating because you're like, I have to do this sink full of dishes, but I don't have enough time to do it. So
yeah,
things pile up. But then when you do it and you complete the work that you've been thinking about, then it feels great.
Yeah. Did you always want to be a parent?
I mean, that's a good question. I think I did and then didn't. If that answer,
did and then didn't.
Yeah, like as a kid.
Walk
as a
me
kid,
through that.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and there's just a lot of kids in my family. We were on my mom is one of 6 siblings, and my dad was one of 10 siblings.
10?
10. Yes, Catholics. You see. And so I kind of
but Catholic, like the Catholics I grew up with, it's like 3 or 4.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess this was another time. I haven't seen too many like 10 kid families lately. Frankly, America has gone through rougher times.
I wonder what it is about this country that makes something like that it makes more than 1 or 2 near impossible at this point.
I can't. It's astonishing that people have more than one. You know, sometimes I'm like, wow, how do you handle that? But yeah, to answer that question, I mean, I kind of just always, as when I was growing up, I sort of assumed that would be something that happened eventually, but I didn't really like think about it as, as something where I was like, I am definitely 100% going to do that.
That assumption interests me though, because I think most people in some way grow up with certain assumptions.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where, well, I don't know. I always go back and forth. It's like, I'm never in anyone else's head but my own. Let's just say I had to actually start making choices about what I wanted out of life, and actually had to like examine inside. And it was such a process of like, well, what do I actually want? There are 2 things, and this is interesting because I know you, the few things I know about you is that, and you said this already, you grew up Catholic, like faith, actual faith, not just like following the rules of some religion, and wanting to be a parent. Those things, I've never had those desires. So they're always so interesting to me, like when other people have them, because I'm curious about like, did you choose this for yourself? Was it just something where you like, I guess I'm doing this?
Right. Yeah. Well, so yeah, and it never really had anything to do with like, I'm Catholic, or so therefore I have to have kids, because I was raised pretty Catholic. Like we went to church every Sunday, but it was funny because as the siblings go down from me, the Catholicism started to wear off. And I was like, my youngest, my brother Declan is the youngest. I don't think he really had to go to church that much, but I was like, man, I had to go every Sunday. I like got confirmed. I had to go through all of this stuff, and I definitely came in and out of spiritual exploration, as a kid. I think I was always just sort of interested in a higher experience. And I remember going in high school, going to some Baptist church services and like gospel church and stuff too. And that was really fascinating for me because it's very different from how Catholics do it. And much to my mom's chagrin, she was kind of like, "Ugh, yeah, okay, well, I'm sure they're all up there dancing and whatever, like it's a very different kind of experience. But um I kind of I fell out of Catholicism pretty hard, like many people do when they become adults and learn more things about the world. And I was never somebody who was like, God created the world like 6,000 years ago.
Sure.
It was, yeah, because I was very interested in science and everything and growing up. So I think it was just like a sense of um, there being like something else out there. But as a kid, I got hit with a lot of like that feeling of like surveillance, like
Hmm.
your choices are being watched and perhaps judged. And that was, just something that I eventually learned to unlearn. But it's funny how the ghost of that still kind of lives in your head as you get older. Like you still are kind of making some moral choices and not like, oh my gosh, if I do the wrong thing, I'm gonna like burn eternally or something like that. But it's more of like I have always felt like a sort of cosmic sense around my decision making, even though it's like not something that I like actively believe in. I just know that there's a presence of self judgment there.
Oh, wait. When you say presence of self judgment, you literally just mean that there is that somehow you've internalized this surveillance divinity
Yeah.
into something in your brain, as opposed to actually thinking that there is a some kind of divine
Yes.
spirit
Yeah.
watching you.
Yeah, it's more of that's what I mean by like the ghost of that kind of remains because it's still a self-judgment that is kind of harsh that I don't apply to other people. It feels like, this is why I've been in therapy for many years. Um, yeah. It's hard to unlearn. I took all of that very, seriously, I think as a kid. I was very concerned with how I was doing in terms of my, what are my chances here? Am I gonna be burning? Is like
Uh
it, like,
huh. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
uh, yeah, it's not. I think I'm making it sound like it was like all the time for us. I think there was always like I don't know, going back and forth with sometimes it felt like we were like super talking about God and then other times it didn't. And as I said, as I got older, it sort of felt like we just like didn't do it as much. Like we just kind of all like fell out from it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, you asked about as an adult. So I became a parent when I was 23, which is younger than most people that I know. And yeah, I don't really know to like I haven't really thought about how to like talk about this publicly. I can't really go into too many details, I guess, about it, but it was I would say that I can say that it was a strange and unique set of circumstances that were for me kind of traumatic. And I, you know, I took it on
Hmm.
and you don't always, and in fact, like it's kind of interesting to think about things this way. Many people since time immemorial, I mean, it's a very common experience to have children just kind of come into your life like you didn't decide, you didn't make the plan, like like
Yeah.
um but then you always do have the choice of becoming a parent. That's almost like a separate choice that you make to yourself, which is what I did. And when faced with that choice, it was very clear. It was not hard to decide.
When you say like you make the choice to become a parent, you mean the choice to either be like just the person there or an actual parent that
Yeah.
guides
Yeah.
your. Yes, yes. Okay, I see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for me at that time, I was quite young And I
Yeah.
had just left school and I was embarking on the quest of becoming a musician, which was a big turn for me that my family was concerned about because I originally went to school for mechanical engineering. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So you can imagine their surprise. And
Was that just a choice, like I need to pick something, or was there any affinity for it or any desire to be a mechanical
uh,
engineer?
it was, yeah, I'm kind of telling this story like in reverse. It's funny. We're going in different chronological orders here,
It's okay.
but
I made notes. We can,
okay, great. Yeah.
tenet around back and forth.
Yeah. So, so when I was younger, like, growing up and in high school, I was a super applied type of person. Like I just had a lot of things that I was interested in doing and almost to a fault. Like in high school, it was like I was unwell mentally because I had to be great at everything that I was doing. Like I had to get really good grades. I had to be doing well like outside of school. Like I was a Boy Scout. I'm an
Uh-huh.
Eagle Scout. I ran track and field and like cross country. I did like 3 seasons of sports and stuff. But I was also a musician. Like I was playing in bands. I was learning how to play fiddle and getting really into it in high school. And music was there sort of the whole time. But it was always something where people were like, in my high school it was a public school, but it was very like college prep oriented, like trying to get people into schools and stuff. And I think it was just sort of put to me that like, hey, you've got really good math and science grades. You're interested in this stuff, and I was genuinely like, I grew up being like, yeah, science could be for me. And that just it seemed like that was the path that I was on. Like I was going to go to school for science, but I was going to like, do still explore other things, but like that was going to be sort of the career.
Yeah. Can I jump in? One,
Yes.
where was this? This is upstate New York?
Yeah, this is upstate New York. This is one of the suburbs of Albany,
Okay.
called Bethlehem. Yeah.
Bethlehem. Great. Been to Albany once for a bat mitzvah. That's all I know.
Oh, very nice.
Besides see the government, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, right. The Empire State Plaza, our crown jewel as a state. Yeah.
So Bethlehem, interesting. Growing up Catholic in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, where was this pressure coming from? Was it from inside? You had to do it? Was it from parents? Was it from somewhere else? Where was this pressure that you said you had to be good at this stuff? You didn't say I was, like, I mean, you were, but you didn't say like, you didn't say it casually. You said had. So that jumped out to me.
Yeah. And it was like that, like in retrospect, it's hard to identify my thinking at the time without hindsight, but I think it was definitely partially my parents, like, really put, as I was their first child, and I think they eased up a little bit as the other siblings came up. But for me, and they all got a little bit of this too. But I think for me, it was like they were very concerned about how I was, performing and whether or not to, like, how to guide me and things like that. And I don't say any of this to like blame them for me being like a total perfectionist, but I think it's just something that I internalized, and very quickly it became sort of an unhealthy obsession. Like I was like, I was the type of kid that like stayed up really late doing homework and then would like get up for school. It's crazy thinking back on it now.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I was similar, except I was able to skate by.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do, like, by senior year, I was doing my calculus homework on the bus. I was doing my Latin homework in calculus, my German homework in Latin, and then I had a science, like I'd gone through all the sciences already. So I just had like an independent study where I would sit in the chemical room for the chemistry teacher and just read like Stephen Jay Gould books about evolution and stuff like that.
Whoa. Yeah.
So I had a moral I had the same, this is why I think this is interesting. because I had the same pressure in my head, yet somehow I was just like, eh. And I was still good. Like, it was good. I was doing, I was doing good work, but I was also just like, part of it was just like, fuck it. Like, I don't know. I don't know how that's why I'm curious about like, but it didn't manifest like that in you. Like, you were good, but you also then worked hard as well.
Yes. Yeah. That's funny. I kind of wish that I had somebody going, to me, like, or I could have had just a little bit more of that myself, looking back. I mean, it's good to be, I guess it's, good to be very disciplined in your studies, but it was a lot. Like, thinking back, it was just an enormous amount of pressure. It felt like sometimes for stuff that now you're like, why didn't I just like chill a little bit more when I was younger? But that's the thing. I guess that is the one thing about me that's true, is that I actually have no chill. I'm very much. I get sometimes, but it is. I'm a little nuts that way.
And that stuff then just transferred right over to music, like that pressure and that feeling of needing to. You said perfectionist, but like I assume that like the kind of like. It's the same thing for me. I had to learn to work hard at some point. I got to a point in college where I'm just like reading Heidegger, or like, I remember I had this class you had to read, it was a physics class, but you had to read the original papers. So like every week it was like a different one. It was like Einstein's Brownian motion paper, or like Schrodinger's paper. And the math was so far beyond anything I could understand that I actually had to work hard. I actually had to go meet with the professor every week and talk through some of the stuff, because it was just beyond anything I had ever done, and beyond. I can go back and read it now and not understand it still. Like,
right.
Just to like get to the tiniest level of competency to get past that. And now, so I will sit there and like think of a word choice for a script for 50 minutes and be like, is this it? And then rewrite it. And then like, that's not it. And then keep going. So it eventually transferred over to me, but this is something that like for you, I was about to say is eternal, goes throughout your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way, I think that music though was and maybe part of why I decided really to do this and like knew that I had to do this with my life, is that it was very different. It felt something about it was different than that. It actually, I think sometimes in high school, it felt like a piece of personal, it's very high school to say it like this, but it felt like a piece of personal rebellion against what I was like. I was like, fuck, I got to do all this fucking math homework, and I'm staying up until forever doing this. And I like, I got this exam tomorrow, but I'm going to practice my fiddle too, and I'm gonna love it. And it's great. And I think in college was when I was really exposed to. So I went to school at RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, that it's like known for engineering and science and all that, but it has this kind of like lesser known secret corner of the school where it's an electronic arts kind of vibe, and it is a kind of coalescing of the sciences and the arts in this really interesting way. And that is where I gravitated towards at the end of school. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I should have been here the whole time. Like, this is so awesome. And I think I learned a lot. It opened my eyes a lot to different philosophies around sound and music. And that's when I was exposed to the practice of deep listening, which was pioneered by this woman, Pauline Oliveros.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Oh, you know her. Okay, great. Yeah.
By the way, whenever I talk about high art, let's say, whether it's experimental music, whether it is, Rothko, whatever, I always feel so dumb when I'm like, yeah, it's great. Like I'm talking about like a Jason Statham film or something like that, where I'm like, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, no, it's, I see what you mean. But yeah, so she was a professor there. She taught the deep listening course And she passed away while I was a student, actually, but which was rough because I was going to take the full semester course like the next, semester, and it was like a big loss for the institution. And but I was lucky enough to take a few classes with her because there was a while where I was in some other music theory course, and our professor was out for a while, and she came in and just did some amazing deep listening seminars and practices with us. And I think that was sort of the crux of my mind being opened a lot. I think that being there and yeah, just you're just meeting more like-minded people, and suddenly realizing that you can do whatever you want with this. Because something that has always, I'm a violin player and I'm known for that, but people have always asked me like, did you study classical music or go to like a conservatory or something like that? And I'm actually so glad that I didn't, because I think that may have, just based on the psychology that we were just talking about before, I think that may have taken something out of my love of playing. And I think at points though, it has been a point of like, I don't know, self criticism for me, because I am sometimes I have these like emperor has no clothes moments where I'm like, man, I actually like really can't play this because I was never trained in this way, like certain specific things, and I have a lot of just being self-taught. But what struck me a lot about just being in school and being around other musicians like that, and just living in downtown Troy and being in like sort of the DIY music, our little scene that we had going there, I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. Like I can just try things out, and be free to explore and feel free to do it.
Was that the first time that you started deviating from the path that it seemed like you were on? I guess what I mean by that is like, earlier, I'm not sure about the exact phrase you used, but I think you said you assumed you were going to be a parent when you were younger. And that to me made me think that you just assumed, in the same way that when I was younger, I just assumed I would just have the same life my parents had. There was no real thought. Like I knew stuff I wanted to, like I was originally going to be a physicist. So there was just some stuff where I'm just like, yeah, that's slightly like my mom's, before she retired, she was a English teacher. My dad was like a business person. I just, it's just, I assumed I would just have the same kind of life. It didn't like, it didn't feel good when I thought about it. Like I was just like, oh, I don't know. Again, I'm articulating it like years and years later that I'm like, oh, I didn't really want that. Why do I have this thing in my chest when I think about it? Like I'm assuming that this is what it's going to be, but it doesn't feel good. But I guess it's just what it is. I guess that's just life.
Did you have a point where you felt like you became conscious of that and decided against it, or was it just sort of more natural?
No. I just sabotaged myself. And I'm saying this, like I did it on purpose, as opposed to I just did the thing I wanted to do, like in grad school, and they were just like, no, thank you. Like, please, we asked you to do a certain thing and you said no. What do you expect from that? Like, what do you expect? Like, if they keep telling you to write papers on Aristotle and you keep writing papers on Pierre Bourdieu, who's like this French sociologist, and they're like, that's not what we asked you to do.
Right.
It's that kind of stuff. And so that, so no, up until my like late 20s,
yes,
it's like that. But I'm curious, was there a point earlier than taking these classes with Pauline Oliveros, or was it that really made you start to consider things?
I think around then, I mean, I think a confluence of many factors happened around then, and that's probably when I decided like I'm going to do this as a career. Like this is going to be my life. I don't want to do anything else. But there were many points before that it was clear that like music was always going to be some part of it. It was just never, I think when I was growing up, it was never really presented as like an option for
Sure.
me, I think we were just talking about being on sort of like a trajectory as a kid. And it was a lot of like, it's not like you have to be an engineer or something like that. It was just more like the choices. You could feel that certain ones were being like propped up as like that was, STEM was a big thing when I was in school, and they're like, oh, you're good at math and science. Like, hey, that's a really good career path for you. And it was not, music was not presented in the same kind of fashion, which was sad. And I think a lot of people grow up thinking like, if you want to be a musician, you're either going to be somebody who plays in an orchestra or like you're in the classical world, or you are trying to become a famous pop star or something.
Right.
And those are the only two
Right.
things that exist. And it's so funny thinking about, I think just there's people just don't really know a whole lot about everything in between, which is like a whole universe. I mean, it's crazy.
No, your choices, unless you grow up very wealthy, your choices are kind of constrained. And no, again, speaking of Pierre Bourdieu, like no one tells you these things. You just kind of like pick up on them based on your class. And I'm assuming middle class, question mark?
Yeah. Yep.
What do your parents do for a living?
So my mom was a pediatric nurse practitioner, and my dad was a regional sales manager for Bristol Myers.
Bristol Myers.
If you must know. Yes.
Is that shaving cream?
Yeah, no. They make the Enfamil line of baby formula.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, which is something I like never. When I was growing up, it was not. I never had a clear picture of what my dad did exactly. It was just like he just like is a business guy.
Yeah.
He just does that kind of stuff. And my mom. So neither of them like really played music. My mom could play the piano, but they were very. They were big music fans. Like listening to music was kind of a big thing, especially in the car. I remember I have some early, like very, very early memories of just like kind of totally having a psychedelic experience listening to music in the car.
Like what? What was on?
Well, I'm thinking specifically right now, the Riverdance 1995 soundtrack was a big one for me as a kid, which might be obvious to some. I learned this later on in my life, but I have something called synesthesia, which is like you're familiar. It's like just sort of like a crossing over of senses. And it's still there for me now, especially with things like time, like numbers and days of the week and things like that, and music as well. But it's funny how it's changed over the years as I've come to participate in music myself, because I'm more conscious of the instruments and whatever goes into it, the recording and the musicians themselves. Whereas as a kid, it was just in the back of the car listening to like that or something like Rush or sometimes we had these like John Williams pops CDs, like he's with the Boston Symphony and they're playing like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff. And I just remember being able to like see these things. Like I can remember what the colors were like and what it looks like. And they had this whole trajectory.
Is there a way to describe it? Like when, whatever, the March of the Sith. I don't know. What's the thing with the
Imperial March?
Imperial March.
Yeah.
Like that plays like, what is the actual visual experience for you?
It's very texture based, and it has a direction. I think this is a really hard thing to describe because it's almost like if you can imagine like a Candyland style map, right? Like it wraps around, you go through the various worlds. It's that as the music is playing, like it's going in a direction and it goes through like these different sort of texture zones.
A direction like across your visual field or as if you are moving through a thing?
Good question. I guess you're kind of moving like the camera is, you're like on the ride. Yeah.
Like you're in a, like, this is so specific. There is a ride at Universal Studios for The Mummy where you're in a thing and it's moving. There's like a screen in front of you and you're moving through. Like it's like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
like
It's a
that.
little like that. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how it's hard to describe, and like live music is a little different too. It's very much a mind's eye kind of thing. It's not like like seeing visuals in front of my face, but yeah, yeah. So that was early on.
Did you know what it was when you were a kid? Or was it just like, this was my experience, and at some point someone told me this is called synesthesia?
Absolutely not. No, I thought it was totally everyone else's experience too, until I was like, I must have been. I think I was probably at the end of high school or something like that, and I do remember saying something about how like Tuesday is definitely yellow. Like Tuesday's got this yellowness to it, and everyone
Yeah.
else was like, "What are you saying?" But someone else I knew was like, "Yeah." And when I think of the numbers 1 through 10, they're like coming towards my face, and then they go away as they go towards 20, and I'm like, "Yes, you understand." Yeah. So
Wow.
that was
Because
a crazy.
I am curious if I don't even know how to ask this or if it's answerable or whatever. I am wondering if that is one of these things that starts prying you apart from, like, you understand. You're like, as soon as you understand, you're like, oh, my brain works slightly differently from another person's. I don't know if you want to say it's neurodivergent. It's not. I guess it is.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely was. I also was the type of kid that like needed to hear the same song over and over again. Like it was really intense.
Yeah, sure. Well, so, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes, hey,
Yeah.
for everyone, neurotypical and
Yes.
neurodivergent alike, a song gets at you and you're just like, I have a
Yes.
desperate need to hear this over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm wondering if that's like, once you realize that, if that's a thing where you're like, oh, okay, I'm
Yes.
different slightly. Well, maybe
For sure.
maybe that's that's the little wedge that gets in there that starts making you consider your life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think a few things happen. I mean, the other part of it too is like that feeling of getting goosebumps is like one of my oldest and favorite feelings, and that has just that like full body experience of how much you love the sound, like the just that one moment of a song, or like that one moment of the piece that it just kind of makes your whole body shake for a second. And that's something that I feel like I am always like looking for that feeling. And of course, when you look for it, it doesn't really happen quite as much. You have to like kind of wait for it to come to you. So that's part of what drew me to it. But also there were certain like moments too where I started playing the violin in school, like in elementary school, because my best friend Andrew was doing it at the time. And it was it was just like something I was doing in school, and I was interested in music. I had taken piano lessons. Obviously like huge fan of music in general. Like I was listening to stuff all the time. I was like I had a little boombox and my parents' CDs and things like that.
King Crimson.
Chumbawamba, actually, as a kid, they just had the Tub Thumping album for some reason. I was like, this is awesome. It was like all connected by the dialogues and stuff. But I think I just thought of violin at first as it was just like it was cool, and there were moments that I really loved about it. But it was like part of what I was just doing at school. Like it was like a school thing. I certainly wasn't practicing very much at home until I started to learn about fiddle playing, which felt like this other world. Like it was like suddenly I could put two and two together and be like, oh yeah, that instrument. Because we also listened to a lot of Irish music growing up, and I was like, oh, that's the same, that sound. That's the same instrument that I'm playing in school. There's nothing different except you have to like learn this language. And suddenly I was never like the best violinist at school, but suddenly I was the only kid that was doing this other thing. And it felt like I had access to this kind of, secret ancient language, which it is kind of like that. Learning traditional Irish music is like some of these tunes are like hundreds of years old that you're learning. And it feels like you're part of this like long legacy. And getting into that kind of music felt like another kind of divergence.
What was it about that idea of legacy that appealed to you at that point? Like, were you looking, again, you said, goes back to something else you had said where like, I wrote this down, so I don't remember if this is verbatim what you said, but I remember you talking about like feeling a connection or wanting to feel a connection to something outside, something spiritual. This idea also, like when you say this, it makes me think you're looking for a connection to the idea of lineage, to history, ancestry, to something outside of yourself. Are these connected in any way, or am I just fishing?
No, you're not fishing. I think that that has always been a component of it. I don't know if it's like super conscious, but at the time it felt, it was very cool to be learning these old tunes and learning about other fiddle players and how these get passed down by ear over the generations. And I'm like, oh, I'm in this lineage now too. As like, my mom's family came to the United States in the early 20th century. And I'm like, now I'm part of this, this next generation, and I'm playing the fiddle, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think, even now when I'm playing, I think, and also when I'm writing and becoming really interested in certain types of music, it does feel, I don't know if this answers your question, but I've always felt like I am being pulled towards something. Like there's something out there that is like demanding this of me. And it's not necessarily like me having, that I'm just like creating this out of my own brilliance or whatever. It's like this idea exists in some ether, and it must be brought into reality. Like I need to hear music. I want this. I think it might have been Juliana that said this on one of your episodes more recently, but she was like, I want music to sound like this, or it might have been her. It might actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how it feels. Like you want music to sound like this. You want to be able to listen to something like this. And therefore, for some reason, it always has felt like it's pulling me towards it and not the other way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I find that to be I make things that I have not seen. Like whenever I write something or whenever I make music or something like that, I'm not trying to. It's just that there's something I want in the world. I can't find it anywhere else, so I have to make it myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. Right? At the same time, this is the thing that I find difficult about this position, which is partly the idea is that I want this thing that I can't find somewhere else. And when I make something, I want other people to appreciate it. But because I'm making something, and I don't make anything that strange. Like I'm not making, like I'm not an outsider artist or anything like that. So it's not like it's like so out there, but it's also just like, it's not standard.
Yeah.
So it's not going to connect to, I'll never, and I'm not aspiring to be, but I'll never be like a Taylor Swift or something like that. Or I'll never be a J.J. Abrams or whoever. Right. So in the same time of making this thing that appeals to me and that I would like other people to appreciate, it immediately, I was going to say bisects. It immediately
he's making a motion with his hands where they intersect in the middle.
It immediately cuts off a large swath of people that I want to connect with.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if this makes any sense what I'm saying, but like, does that ever, like that contradiction where you're pulling this thing out of the ether, right?
Yeah.
That you want, that you have not seen yet, and that excites you. And you're doing it in a way to, there's a lot of reasons people make art. I assume one of the many reasons is connection with other people. And yet in the act of doing that thing, you are kind of cutting off some of that. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh, yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you may have observed, I'm somebody who's like, all of my albums are really different from each other, which I think that is partially getting at what you're saying. But there's like an it must be doneness to
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a
Because it's
compulsion.
yes, totally. Yeah, like I so my the first album I did with Dear Life Records was recorded in this big church, and it's very like palatable in the world of ambient music, and if people who are interested in like new composition and stuff. But the sequel to it is like super grating and close, and there's a lot of distortion, and it's like a small room situation. But it was my friend had died. My friend Andrew actually, who was playing violin before me,
Oh,
and then yep, he had died, and I was like, this is
Jesus.
what it has to sound like. It cannot be. It's not nice like the church one. It's not. It's
Right.
got to be. It has to sound like this, and it's got to kind of hurt a little bit. It has to be, and I'm sure that was alienating for people who were like, "Oh, he's coming out with another album. This is great. I can put this on in the background." But it's like, I don't know, man. That's that's some rough background music. But that's what it has to be like, and I think that is how anybody who's experiencing a loss can pull maybe more easily from that if you want to find some
Yeah.
company in the misery.
Yeah. So wait, I guess this is the thing that I'm curious about. It's like how do you deal with that the act of creating and creating what you want in that moment based on what you feel emotionally, what you feel intellectually, whatever it is that's propelling you in that moment is going to be idiosyncratic, and therefore the connection with the audience, with the people that listen to it, is going to change. It's not going to be like whatever fucking Weezer's. And nothing. I like the first couple albums.
Nothing against Weezer, of course.
Nothing against Weezer, but I'm just saying like it's essentially the same. Like I can pick up like, and I listen to Weezer, hoping that it will get to the kind of like weirdness that was there in the first couple albums again, and it's not.
Yeah.
But like I listen to everyone and I'm just like, yeah, that was like, that's not bad. Like I'm not like, but it is what it is, and it's just this. It's kind of, even though there's differences, it's kind of like the same. And if you're a fan of them, you keep listening to it, and you're like, yay, great.
Yeah. No, I have. It was always going to be my mind in my head. It's like each one has to be different. And I hope that there's some kind of through line that people can find. And I know I'm so conscious all the time. I don't really have the answer for like how to, if it's obviously not a very like, marketable thing to do. Like you really should stick to the one thing. And if it's working, like that's probably good advice, but I just like, I can't do that. It has to be the project in my head has always been like I have like a long string of albums in my mind that are like part of this whole project, and it has to explore different things every time because you can't just do the same thing twice. I mean, I
agree.
I believe very strongly in this sort of complete work. Like I've always thought of it being, it's music, but it's also like a designed like visual environment, and it has like a specific place where it was recorded, and that is really important.
But is this a discontinuity with you? Because again, the picture in my head is you as this kind of like perfect student who is like very studious, and not just studious in terms of your scholastic life, but also you said you ran track. If you did all these sports, you played fiddle, like all this stuff. Is this a discontinuity with that person that transformed through your college experience, or is that somehow
I think
emerging out of who you were?
I see what you're saying, and I think I think I'm grateful for having done that, in high school, and I'm grateful for that kid, that prior version of myself, because, being a parent and trying to also be like a experimental musician and have that be your career is really not easy, nor is it something that I necessarily advise in terms of like your it's not it's really hard, and it requires you to be like, I've had many kinds of like put up or shut up moments where if it's like if you really believe in this, then you kind of have to either do it or you need to maybe look into doing something else. And I think what I find that I connect to that prior version of myself through is just the insistence on it. Like I
Uh-huh.
have to. I have to. I have to keep going with it. And I'm trying. I'm making it sound like I'm like persevering through like horrible conditions and stuff, and it's not. It's not like that at all. It is just like limited time and funds, and you it's kind of like doing it's you're when you have a kid. I felt this way a lot in my 20s, and this is like no shade on everybody else, but I did feel sundered from a lot of people that I knew who were kind of doing the same thing. Like, we were going to be musicians, we're living pretty like loose and free, and we can tour around, and it's okay if we're totally poor. Because I never really had that same experience. The stakes were always higher. It was like, you got to either make this work and really make it work, or not. Or because it's just there's only so much that you can do in a day. So yeah, I think I appreciate my prior self for that sense of drive, but I can't really see it being any other way. Like, this is just something that I feel so compelled by, and there's just an ineffable quality to it that I keep coming back to, and I get so excited. I get so excited about playing music and
Yeah.
making it, and it's
Yeah. Yeah. I keep putting the onus of this transformation, whatever you want to call it, on Pauline Oliveros. By the way, I've never said her name out loud. I realize. I realize I've only seen
really?
it. Yeah. And I'm like, I keep being scared to say her name because I'm like, wait, I've only seen it on my computer on
Oh, wow.
on a folder of MP3s of her
Yeah.
work or whatever on a CD in the library when I was in college at the radio station or something like that. And I panic. This is, again, here's this talk about like a perfectionism thing where I panic if I say someone's name wrong.
Yeah.
Or I mispronounce a word, and then
especially on a recording, you're like, oh man.
Especially because here's what I tell you. I was outside the conversation being like, Andy, you can always punch in. You can always just, if you say her name wrong, you can always just say it correctly later and then cut it back in. If you
put a disclaimer at the beginning after the theme song.
No, why would I? No, I'm trying to hide the fact that I am uncultured and cannot say her name.
Right.
But I keep putting the onus on her as opposed to parenthood, which is dramatically. And you said, as a parenthetical, you said it was a choice. It wasn't just, I'm here, I'm the person that's going to provide. It's, no, I am a parent. I'm going to, hey, it's either provide or God. I am going to.
You can do both.
Yes, and you should. But
yeah,
it was a choice to make that part of your identity as opposed to just be there, I suppose, is what I'm really trying to say. And that is deeply transformative. The choice. Just having a child is transformative, but also on top of that, choosing to be a parent is deeply transformative.
I think it's something that musicians too are like. I definitely hear a lot of people who are like, "Oh man, yeah, I could never do that. Like with my life, then I would have to stop doing what I'm doing." And I'm like, I don't like. Yes, you can. You totally can. I mean, it's it's not like you should or anything like that, but it's like I think that fear of like you have to stop doing your job, like you're an artist, it will be different for you, but it will still exist. If you're drawn to making this that happen, then you will make it happen. And what more beautiful thing than to be able to show that as a life to your child. Like, I mean, my daughter is 6 now, and I am really enjoying kind of connecting. She's getting into music, and I am connecting with her, and I'm seeing her go through these like early experiences that I remember that I was talking about earlier, like in the back of the car, she's totally blissing out to Shakira is the most recent thing. And because she heard a song in the movie Zootopia, and I was playing it, we are listening to it, and I'm like, Shakira had some really good hits in the early 2000s. Let me play this real quick, and I like threw yeah. But so I'm watching her. Watching her kind of go through this same thing, and I get to say that this is what I am. I am a musician, and you can do the same if you want.
Yeah. Can we go back for a second? We're right towards the end, but there's something that's still nagging at my brain. The idea that you were trying to find something, a connection to something larger outside yourself. I am curious like what was going on. Is it just something that like if you grow up religious? And this is why, sorry, as a parenthetical, I'm having trouble kind of articulating it because like I grew up Jewish, Reformed Jewish, but still Jewish, going to temple every week, religious school, bar mitzvah, all of that stuff. And yet the idea of something larger outside of myself, I couldn't connect with it. That idea. It's not in me. I couldn't. And I think that I have tried to find that thing in other people. Like in finding whatever that is through connecting with groups of people, whether it's like making things that can connect with someone or, being part of a scene, whatever, UCB, when I was in New York, all that stuff. I'm just wondering, like, where does it originate in you, that desire? And then do you think making art, again, this is such a stretch, or it's just like some kind of like armchair psychology, is making art somehow an extension of that, or some trying to fulfill? I don't know. I'm just like, I'm really kind of like, there's something there, but I don't know what.
No, yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know how much it has to do with like having a religious upbringing. It's very interesting because that comes into my work a lot, like references to Catholicism and stuff, even though I'm not like a practicing Catholic or anything anymore. It's just like a ingrained sort of cultural thing. And I also think it's not like exclusive towards like, I share your connection with other, like being energized by other. I mean, nothing is better than like seeing someone that you really like perform, or just seeing something that blows your mind live. It's like, it just injects so much energy into you all of a sudden, or opens your eyes to something new. It's like the best, it's the best part of being a musician. But yeah, I mean, I sort of think of, well, two things. I think of music as being, and other musicians, I have this like baseline, and artists, it may be in general, I have this baseline connection to them as though we're all in the same like covenant or something. Like we're all like monks who go to the same sort of practice where we go to the worship space, the venue, and then there's a ritual that takes place there where people take turns making sounds, and we all enjoy it, and we talk about it all the time. We write about it. We play with each other. It's and that's, I think that is part of it. Like we're all connected to this like kind of, I don't know, because it is like us, but there's like a third element to it, I think, that I've always really been drawn to. And I think that's part of like when I was saying earlier, like about the sense of like a complete work. It really is awesome when you can see something that is created that like many people have come together to make, and it's like this like cross disciplinary sort of thing, and it's something that has like an energy to it that you can't alone create, which is really interesting. One of my earliest influences, honestly, I think that's really sticks with me still, is Fantasia and the Fantasia films, and the sequel Fantasia 2000. I admired the chutzpah of the concept of that. It's like, okay, we're gonna make this is like high art. We are cartoonists, but we are also working with Leopold Stokowski, and we're going to like make this concert series of films that is gonna be like these abstract representations of. And this is like, 1940 or whatever. Like it's been a long time. And I just think that like that kind of pursuit towards a feeling, or like a mass feeling, like something that obviously causes a lot of emotion or feeling in a lot of people at once, is so amazing. And it just, you feel like such a, yeah, a connection to everything, I think, in that moment, which is, I don't know, it sounds quite, when I'm saying,
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
it
no,
sounds
no.
quasi religious, but that's really how I feel about it. I feel like this, yeah, a
Yes.
sort of universal connection.
Yeah. Okay. Last question then. Do you
Okay.
feel like you belonged when you were a kid? Belonged in whatever it is, church, school, family? Do you feel like you fit in?
Oh, wow. Hmm. I think, I think, yeah, for the most part. Yeah. Yes and no. You just
What's
got
the no? Because I
three
wonder
different
if
answers there.
I, what's the no? Because I wonder if this. Because as you were talking, I was thinking about where what is the origin of this feeling of like needing to sync with others, sync, sync with other
Mm,
people, right?
yeah.
Whether it's a religious sync, whether it's an artistic sync, whatever it is, there's an feels like a biological need. Maybe that's just like a. I hate feeling like that. There is some necessities about being human, but there are. Like,
Yeah.
you have to eat, you have to go to the bathroom. Maybe you feel like you have to be part of something larger than
Mm.
yourself, whatever that is. And I wonder if you feel like you don't belong if you seek it out in certain places. So when you say no, like what do you mean? Like you yes, you felt like you belonged, but no, you didn't, or you didn't feel, or what?
Yeah, I think at times I was definitely, I felt, and I think this is like very normal, but I sort of felt like, I was like sort of different, and other, people don't understand me, that sort of feeling. But and when in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you had a lot of, I had like a lot of friends, and things were not, it's not like I was like ostracized in any way, or I don't think people thought I was all that weird, but it was, I think it was clear that I felt like I had kind of a different mind, I guess, or different perspective. Um, but honestly, I guess I never really thought about it as a matter of like fitting in. I just sort of knew what I was psyched about, and
Mm.
things that made me like really feel good. And I do remember though, from an early day, like in middle school, all this stuff always happens in middle school, but like in middle school, I was really starting to get into, like many middle school aged white boys at the time, I was really getting into like classic rock and stuff. And I started to hang out with those guys, and I played bass in a rock band, but I didn't know what I was doing like at all. I just like wanted to be a part of this thing that was going on. And it was another kind of form of music that I hadn't thought about doing before. I was like, oh, you can play in a rock band too. You can try to do that. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's a tough question. I would have to like ponder that question for a few days. But I think, what it reminded me of is, as like a musician now, I often feel a little bit, not like different necessarily, but there is like some kind of separation, I think, that I feel from other musicians who are kind of in the same circles. And part of it is just I think maybe just being a dad, like having a unique kind of
Ah,
experience that way.
yeah,
Um,
for
but
sure.
yeah, but some of it is like just stuff that I listen to. Like I go through these periods where sometimes I'm like into the new music that other people around me are into, and I'm like looking for new stuff. And then there are other times where I'm like, I can only listen to medieval organum, and that's what I'm doing for months. And that is suddenly that's the only thing that I am like really into, and I kind of miss out on, I guess, things that way. And sometimes that feels like it's hard to I'm like, oh shoot, now this is my thing, and I don't know if anyone else is on the same wavelength.
Yeah. And I missed out on the summer of Dochi.
Yeah. Right.
Connor, thank you so much for joining me today. What an absolute delight.
Thanks for having me. This was great. Yeah. Yeah, it was a delight. Thanks so much.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, 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 bye.